Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hurley Investments Market View commentary for the 25th of July. With that said, we have just made sure that if you are interested in it, you can download you can download a Ford PDF. Forward earnings, your guess is not as good as mine. Kind of interesting that I heard Kramer today. Kramer was touting Ford and how much better Ford should be than General Motors. And the funny part is that they were touting Ford and they were saying they should be better because of their Ford credit, not necessarily because of their earnings, even though they did tout the electrical vehicles. But here we go. I've got a couple things to go over with you today. What's important today? Meaning, what's moving our markets? What's important? What is going to drive our markets farther or higher here in the near future? And again, we all know, there we go, Fed meeting on Wednesday, noon. It's a noon Mountain Standard Time. And with that said, what is that going to equal for the market? What's the benefit? What's the, I don't know. How will it affect the market, in your opinion? That's an interesting one. William's like, it's going to suck. Yeah, it's probably going to suck, but I want more than that. What is going to affect our market when it comes to those earnings? Not earnings, excuse me. When it comes to the Fed hike. There we go. So I like that one, right? 75 basis point. Was a 75 basis point the move down in June? Did it exasperate it? What do you think? Was it nothing? Was it just time for our markets to drop? So it might have. There we go. I mean, we don't know. We're extrapolating. But a rate hike is definitely making it more, it's making everything more expensive for businesses, right? Okay, who said it? Earnings this week. It's like 28%. I don't know the exact number, but 28% ish of the S&P 500 report this week. It's huge. We got huge earnings. And already Walmart pre-announced today and dropped what? 9%? Let's see if I can find it. Walmart. Yeah, 9.89% dropped, $13 after hours as they pre-announced that inflation was pushing people more towards food goods and they weren't buying their more margin heavy items like their clothes. Could it be that the clothes are cheap and they don't last very long? Who knows? Abraham, and I think it's important, but I don't know if it's that. Perspective on economy in the US, Europe, and China will affect US market movements until the next earnings season. Abraham said perspective on earnings will determine size and direction of the market. Let's face it, I am a little surprised that we haven't touched that we have not touched 3,200 before we got back up to 4,000 on the S&P. And yes, I understand that we're not at 4,000, but we came right up to it. And I mean, we're close enough. We're close enough that we touched 4,000 before we touched 3,200, which means we have about a 20% drop in the US markets from where it's at right now. And that drop could be started or initiated by this earnings season. Kevin, why 3,200? Well, if you go back a couple times back, it's a support level. It pushes our market back below what, 16 or 17 times earnings with the earnings revision. 3,000 does us a lot better. I think 3,000 pushes us to that 15 times earnings into the future, which is probably more accurately reflective of our future market. So what I'm going to ask you guys is, give me your thoughts. Where is the market heading to? And these are your thoughts. You can be a contrarian. You can give me individual positions. You tell me what do you see in your market from the information I'm giving you? And so there actually two good comments were made right there. So let me go ahead and put those in here. Need to know which segments will profit from the coming economy, right? And I don't even know if I would say segments. I would change segments. I would change that word to companies, because I'm not sure there is going to be a segment per se that's going to do better than another. I mean, oil and energy have had the opportunity of a lifetime since the beginning of this year. And yes, they've come up, but not back up to their highs. I just don't see, I don't know if I see a segment per se. I just see areas. And William, I like that one too. Certain companies that can maintain, I like the way you put that, maintain pricing power should do better. I agree. I agree 100%. Let's see here. I think 3,200, but after a bounce to suck everyone in before the rug's pulled out. I like that comment. Go down probably slowly, no large extreme movements. Well, June was a pretty large extreme movement. I don't know. When you see Walmart drop 10%, 9.89% in a day, I don't know. I see some extreme movements coming up. Jim said defense is up, and I don't necessarily agree, but I don't necessarily agree because I'm going to use Lockheed Martin, right? And if we take a peek at Lockheed Martin, as a defense or a defensible stock, high was 477 and it's trading at 399 over the last 5 months. Before that, it was lower, so it might have been up for the year, but let's take a look. So defense is up slightly for Lockheed Martin. Boeing will show you much the same thing, although Boeing's more flat to down. Lockheed Martin, what's the other defense contractor I'm thinking of? Boeing does the planes, Lockheed Martin, it's totally slipping my mind right now. What's Lockheed Martin's big competition? Yep. Bill Brander, what's Northrop Grumman? We can do Raytheon, but Raytheon got purchased, and RTN now. Forgot Raytheon's. Raytheon got purchased. I don't know what BAE is either. A Systems, Pink, Industrial. So short answer is I don't think even defense is going to be saved from this to a certain degree. I think it's going to be pricing power. And some of those with pricing power will be your opportunities. If I looked at our example, it's my belief that Apple has that pricing power. What do you guys think? Does Boeing have pricing power? Would you say Boeing has pricing power? Yeah, of course they do. They haven't quit selling their planes for a good price, right? How about Baidu? Does Baidu have pricing power? I'm going to say yes, only because they make up their pricing as they go, right? What about Costco? There's an interesting one. Does Costco have pricing power? Anyone know if Costco has pricing power? Maud says to a degree, and William, you said maybe. You know, they can raise their membership. That's where they really make their money. I don't know. That's one I might say I don't know. Does CVS have pricing power? No. Dollar General have pricing power? No. Even though they really do sell stuff more than $1. How about Disney? Does Disney have pricing power? Yeah, it's kind of neat. A bunch of you said a bunch of yeses there. I would agree with you on that one. How about Ford? Does Ford have pricing power? So that's funny. Maud and Mary both said yes. David and William, you both said no. So the girls think no. Actually, Abraham just said no. The girls are saying yes. The boys are saying no. So let me give you an example. Last year, it was time for my wife to have a new car, and what should have cost me about $87,000 cost me $96,000 if I wanted to get the make and model for my wife getting a new Ford Explorer, Ford Expedition with all the bells and the whistles, right? Not only that, I paid $9,000 more for it and had to go out 700 miles or whatever. It was 700 miles round trip to Cheyenne or a dealership north of Cheyenne, Wyoming, to go pick up the car and get it back home. For me, I feel like Ford has pricing power. I feel like it has pricing power because if I'm willing to do that and they jacked up their prices on everything, seems like they're doing pretty good. How about Coke? Pricing power on Coke? Not really, right? It's just Coke. Anyone feel that Meta, Facebook, do they have pricing power? So Abraham said yes for part of its products. Explain that one to me. Abraham's on Coke. Yeah. Coke, nothing's really gone up. By Monster drinks or their other drinks, they really haven't gone up. Coke hasn't really gone up. Let's just say pricing power on Coke, it's a commodity, not really. Meta, does Meta have pricing power? Technically they might, but I would say no. They need their ads just like everyone else, right? Micron does not have pricing power right now. Square does not have pricing power right now. Under Armour, another product, does not have pricing power right now. But here's an interesting one. Does Visa have pricing power? 4 of you just said yes. Why does Visa have pricing power? Aren't they just prime plus 2%? Everyone uses credit, but Visa's been getting beat up last year because they charged a little bit more, right? They had to go to court over in Europe. Yes, Visa definitely has pricing power. So much that Europe is suing them because they charge 4% instead of just prime to use their credit service. Interesting earnings season. Coke and Visa tomorrow, Boeing, Ford, and Meta on Wednesday, Apple on Thursday. Tomorrow, well, I'm going through this. I should just go and bring it to where you guys are at. Google reports tomorrow, General Motors, General Electric, UPS, Juniper, Microsoft, Zions. We've got some big movers tomorrow. Wednesday, FOMC rate decision. That'll be the biggest one right there. But Boston Scientific, Bristol Myers, Garmin, Hilton, Kraft Heinz, Spotify, T-Mobile, Waste Management, Qualcomm, Boeing, Ford, Meta. Busy day on Wednesday. Thursday is Apple, but GDP is the big one. We need a positive number to not go through 2 negative quarters or put ourselves into a recession. Mosaic, Budweiser, Arch Coal, Comcast, Harley, Hershey, Hertz, Honeywell, International Paper, MasterCard, Merck, Pfizer, Southwest, Valero, Beazer Homes, First Solar, Intel, Roku, SkyWest, US Steel, VF Corp, Apple. I mean, we got a bunch on Thursday and Friday. You know, it's ExxonMobil and Phillips 66, right? Big earnings coming up. And last time I checked, with Walmart's after hours announcement, actually, we should just go with the after hours announcement. Futures are looking pretty good, but the NASDAQ futures have recovered. NASDAQ was down 77 at one point. Dow and S&P, not looking good, and we're just going to get talked about that earnings hike that's expected. Next couple days look ugly. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to tell you last week and today, we basically covered all positions with puts for protection. I think we had two we did today, Apple and Facebook. I think, nope, Apple and Boeing were the ones that we really needed to take care of today. All right, question came in, kind of chuckled a little bit. This morning I read that Russia and China want to develop a currency backed by gold, silver, uranium, and rare earth metals. This currency is to combat the dollar's position in the world, which is our reserve currency status. What, if any, effect do you think this will have on the U.S. and the dollar? Something will back the value of the Russian China currency, but there's nothing backing the value of our dollar. And just curious, this is not a me response. I don't know if this will actually happen. So the short answer is, Bill, this has already happened a couple times, and in some areas of the world, they're using the Middle Eastern currency, and India and China are using a currency to try to get out of using the US dollar. You've heard me talk about this in the past. China, Russia, probably nothing's really going to happen here. And with all due respect, the US currency is backed by gold, just not enough to be dollar for dollar. But more importantly, the US currency is backed by our GDP and our strength in the world. If we were to lose our reserve currency status, we would become Great Britain. We would see pricing on everything go up by 16 to 25%, and we would be in serious trouble because, much like Great Britain, instead of stockpiling and taking advantage of our reserve currency status, we have politicians that are idiots and jackasses that spent because money grows on trees. Really, our country's been very poorly run since most likely the mid-90s is where you could start to see our ballooning deficit just start to get out of control. So if we were to lose our reserve currency status, the most likely outcome is the G7 countries would all have a basket of currencies to use. So there would be no currency exchange as you purchase one commodity over another. If that were to happen, the US would be in deep trouble. There have been some talks. There is a smaller version of it happening right now with the Middle Eastern currency to trade some oil. But if that were to happen, it would weaken the dollar significantly, and it would give up our reserve currency benefit or status of not getting charged 3 to 8% coming and going on the purchase of commodities. Really, we should have done a much better job of stockpiling for a rainy day. But again, politicians are politicians and they can't think logically. Little article here in regards to Boeing. And they're starting to get some of their 787 Dreamliner deliveries, which would be a huge profit margin jump for these guys. This came from Barron's, just as a heads up. The big picture, not much to really talk about. It's just doom and gloom, and yeah, let's face it, there are some stocks that are going to get crushed in earnings. There are some stocks that will do better than feared in earnings and will be going up respectively. The key, though, is some of those stocks like Netflix and Tesla have already been crushed. So there's a lot of upside opportunity to some that have been beaten down pretty good. You will most likely start to hear that on the TV. Not as bad as expected, right? All right, here's what I really wanted to show you. In 1 week, we went from being bearish on the Dow to the first time that I can write bullish in quite a few months. S&P, same exact thing. In 1 week, we went from bearish to bullish on the S&P 500. Kevin, it's a triple bottom down there, a double bottom. We broke the 50-day. I mean, interesting to see. Just noticed there's a doji today, which means we should be reversing direction, going back down. There is no doji on the Dow, and we have a small hammer on the NASDAQ, but it also in 1 week has become bullish, which is pretty interesting to see. All right, let's see here. I still think we'll be down net in July, which means if I look at my July S&P 500, we started right around 3,800. We're probably going to be down around 3,500, maybe 33,000, 2%, 30. 3,800, so 2% is only 72. It'd be, yeah, we'd be back down to test the lows at 37.21. That's where I think we will end July, if not worse. When Abraham, you said it might not be a big drop, my expectation is we will probably lose 10%, well, I guess 7% in the next week here. If we just came up 5%-ish from last week, I could see a 7% drop this week with how we have earnings stacked up and how we have our rate hike stacked up as well. All right. Walmart, I have the Walmart article to explain what happened and why they're down 9% after hours, 9.87. I've got a Facebook article that I find very interesting. Facebook lost $10 on Friday due to, well, basically due to Spotify's crappy numbers. Blame it all on Apple, right? Snap, excuse me, it was Snap, not Spotify. It was Snap. Which is interesting because Snap is a younger group, and so the thought was, hey, Snap doesn't have the money. Older people that are on Facebook that are sharing pictures do have money. It's not apples to apples. We'll see. I found interesting when 40% of workers are going to quit their job soon. Here's what's going on. People want to switch industries. They're going to start their own business, which is scary because if you start your own business, what, 96% of people, 96% of all businesses fail in the first 2 years. There's a recession coming right there. Rapid quitting could continue through 2022 unless companies make meaningful changes. You got to bribe your workers now. I do want to go through REITs and SPACs, but this Thursday we will most likely be canceling our trade findings and adjustments, and we will prep what we wanted to share with you for Wednesday night. Keith has his in-laws in town. I've got Jared going through physical therapy and appointments. So I'm going to try to do a REITs trade findings and adjustments and email it out to everyone Thursday so that you can go over REITs with me and what we see there. But SPACs will be the one after REITs. That'll probably be next week. SPACs, an interesting article on how well they've done. I found interesting the reason behind a serious surging trade in stocks like Berkshire Hathaway has been revealed. Very interesting article on how the SEC counts a small percentage of a stock when you're now doing these stock shares where you can own 1/10 of a percent, 100th of a percent. Well, it's not registered as that way. It's registered as a whole stock. So now because we're doing stock slices, and if you're not holding the shares yourself, if they're not, if you're not playing against your broker, then you have to count them as a wholesale. And that's why we've had some surge in stocks like Berkshire Hathaway. Very interesting article. Interesting to see if FINRA finally says, hey, you know what? It shouldn't count as a whole stock if someone only buys 1/10 of it, right? So hopefully we'll get that figured out and people will be okay with it. Mortgage demand drops, duh, inflation and rising interest rates. If you haven't refinanced your house, it's still a good time. It's still a good time this year historically. But compared to last year, you're going to pay 4 times the amount that you could have restructured your loan for last year. Another crypto, hey, worry about what's going on type of article. With that said, what questions do you guys have that you'd like to go over within this group in regards to our stock market? If there are any, please give me a quick typing here to see how things are going. A comment was made, California's dumb laws are basically outlawing independent truckers from moving through their states. It's good for Washington and Oregon areas, but to lose some of the LA ports and Long Beach ports and San Diego ports, there's some pretty big ports of entry where a lot of supply comes in and out. But I understood they weren't outlawing them. They were just making it harder to get the DFS for the diesel fuel, in which case it's just not economically feasible for these drivers to drive into California to get these things. So Jim asked, the next webinar is going to be canceled most likely. Keith and I are trying to juggle our schedules. So we'll send an alert out via email, but it looks like we're going to, right now tonight, we're going to cancel the Thursday webinar, and Wednesday night, I'm just going to record something for you in regards to REITs and send it out Thursday morning so you guys will have it. It'll be a link to a pre-recorded class, and my plan is to do it on the REITs. Just give an opinion on that. So looks like we're canceling the webinar unless we can rearrange some schedules, and I will just send out to you a link to listen to Thursday's webinar that will be pre-recorded. I'll do it Wednesday evening. maybe Wednesday evening at like midnight. So I just asked, when you're researching a stock, how important is volume to you? It's mildly important, Ida. I wouldn't trade something that doesn't have 1 million shares traded daily. That doesn't mean that at times I'm not into something that trades 800 or 900,000 shares daily. But if it doesn't trade 1 million shares, you really could be looking at a liquidity problem, in which case I have seen plenty of people not get a sell order, not get a stop loss filled until it was half of the price of that stop loss, until someone took a flyer on it where they couldn't get filled on a limit order, so they did a market order, and again, instead of taking a 10% loss, took a 30-40% loss. So how important is volume? It's mildly important, but it's mildly important because if you want to trade something fundamentally sound, you're not going to put yourself into something that trades less than 1 million shares. I have at time been in a couple stocks that traded less than that. It was a big risk. We made a quick run up and I basically got out of them. That would be my answer to that. And I know someone's going to ask, well, Kevin, what did you do? You know, what could be that? Purple was one of those. I had some clients that wanted me to get into purple. We got in at 10, we got in at 5, we got out at 25, we got out at 20, we got out at 18. And purple is one that trades less than 1 million shares, in which case I was scared on that one. When you see volume for a day be as low as like 400,000, I knew I had to get out and be smart to get out at hopefully a pretty good price. I know someone's going to ask, well, hey, did you not get out higher, like 25 or 30, 31? No, I mean, we basically got out at 25, 20, and 18. I did not catch it all the way up at 35, or where was it? 32.98, it looks like, was the high a couple of years ago. So no, most recently I missed the highs up at 27 or whatever they were at. Got out at third at 25, third at 20, third at 18. And because there wasn't a whole lot of volume, I made sure I had some wide spreads and was just getting out when I could. Good question. All right, are there any other questions you guys have that I can get answered for you? Stuart, nice to see you back. Todd, good to have you. Lance, you're always welcome back. Good to see you. All right, guys. Hey, have a wonderful evening. Big day on Wednesday with earnings of Boeing, Ford, and Meta. Already have protection on with our rate hike. Coke and Visa tomorrow. Apple on Thursday. Some core holdings are going to be moving. Be ready for some movements. And guys, have a great evening. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.